And believe it or not, there was only one doctor there on this panel who was willing to say, gentlemen, we have a genuine miracle here. He goes, I'm looking at all the records, I'm looking at all the results, the tests. This is a genuine miracle. This, we can't explain it any other way except for God. Only one doctor was willing to admit it. And the other doctor said, well, maybe we made a mistake. And my mother said, I don't care whether you made a mistake or not. All I know is that, hey, I prayed and my son was healed.
Oh, man.
Now, that, like I said, when I begin to read these examples that Pastor and I are talking about this morning about strong mothers, I'm thankful for my strong mother this morning. I love her to death, and I know that she loves me and she loves Paul, which is even better. And I give tribute to her. But I know that all of us have stories like that about our moms. Aren't moms wonderful? They really are. I believe that. Yes, they are. I'm thankful for that. But Hannah, what a great example. And then we jump to the New Testament. And of course, we couldn't leave Mary, the mother of Jesus, out of the picture. Right, Pastor? Mary. What do we see about her?
I looked at all the things about Mary and looked at how young she was and how she had all these kind of strange happenings guiding her through and guiding Joseph through not to take her away quietly because she had gone out on him. And I see that she is obedient to a fault. She is obedient to what God called. And that's a pretty big thing on can you imagine any of you women being told by God you're going to birth the Son of God? You know, that's a little bit hard of a dinner conversation. You know, and she was obedient all the way through. Not only the obedience of just having Jesus, but she was obedient to God all the way through to the cross. And I cannot imagine what must have happened in her heart as she watched her son being beaten, and her son being shamed, and her son being stripped naked. And even at that point when he was at his worst, you see a son's love for his mother when he betroths Mary to John the Beloved. You know, she was obedient to whatever God asked. She seemed to just have that special nature of some kind. God chose her. Out of all the women in the world, God chose Mary. God saw in her what maybe she didn't even know that she had, and that was a lot of strength. Not only was childbirth tough in those days, you know, so was transportation. Bumpity bump on a donkey when you're in labor.
Well, I think Mary is a great example. I mean, a great example for Jesus. I mean, because we know that Jesus, for the first 30 years of his life, must have followed in the example and footsteps of his mom Mary, and his earthly father Joseph. I believe that. I was reading a little story, Pastor, about that. I was reading about a mother who she had a little 4-year-old boy, and he was constantly on her heels. Behind her, she was trying to clean the house, and finally she said, "Son, wouldn't you like to go outside and play on the swing set?" He goes, "Oh no, I'm happy to be right here by you." He kept, right behind her. She kept stepping on his feet and everything, and she got frustrated. Finally said, "Why don't you just go outside and play?" And he finally said, "Oh, Mommy, in Sunday school, we're told we're to follow in Jesus' footsteps. Well, I can't see Jesus, but I can see you." What a true story. What a testimony. What a testimony. And I think, in a way, that's why I see Mary, the mother of Jesus. She had to be this godly example to her son Jesus, knowing that he was different, knowing that he was going to change the world. And what a great example of obedience on Mary's part. So we see that trust, we see determination, we see obedience, and a prayerful mom. And then our fourth example is from the passage that read this morning by our sister Jackie.
Which is my favorite, one of my favorites.
I know it's one of your favorite stories. It really is.
It teaches me about the humility to be able to say, but I am worth the crumbs.
Yeah.
She loved that daughter so much that she took the risk to go in.
Yep.
And to actually pose something to Jesus. You mean there's not enough of this God to go around?
Mm-hmm.
It's only for the Jews?
And what a great, and like I was telling you earlier, or last night, what a great biographical statement. Her life is summed up by Jesus in 4 words.
Yeah. What did they see?
Great is your faith. I thought about it. You know what? Jesus never said it to any of the disciples.
Just her.
And Jesus only said it to her. Great is your faith. Oh, first of all, a woman, which was not very good back in those days. She was a Gentile woman, which was even worse. You know. And yet Jesus says, great is your faith. What a statement. And you know, and Jesus was an expert on faith. If Jesus knew anything, Jesus knew what faith was. And he said, great is your faith. I thought about that passage. What a testimony. That's a testimony. You know. And yet, like you said, she was so determined that her daughter was healed. Her daughter was healed because she was willing to step out. Like I said, you know, she was a woman, she was a Gentile woman. That was worse. But she was willing to step across those barriers and say, Jesus, and Jesus was kind of playing hard to get there a little bit. And finally she said, well, you know, even the dogs deserve the crumbs.
Which was a term that was used for non-Jew people.
Yeah, exactly.
Gentiles, dogs was the term they used. So she knew what they were called.
Yep.
Doesn't that relate to us a bit? We know the names they use. And yet we're saying to the world, don't, the queers, or the fags,
yeah,
or the dykes, or the drag queens deserve the crumbs from the master's table.
I agree.
Now in your heart of hearts, what would you think Jesus would say? By now I hope you know that Jesus would say, great is your faith.
Right.
Instead of what we hear Jesus would say. You know, it's that the thing about when I look at this, we live in Montana, we live in the big wide open, we hike in the back country, we go into places where there are dangerous animals. Now, most of us know what? Do not ever get between the mother and their baby. How many times do we hear a grizzly bear attack because someone got between the mother and the baby? I mean, through history, when you look there is something that happens with motherhood, whether it's 4-legged or 2-legged or who have that spirit, that they protect that baby at all costs. And then you think about in Scripture when it says that we are children. We are protected at any cost. Well, we see dimly through the glass now. We don't always understand what God has planned, that God is protecting us. Wouldn't all of us like to have that trust where we could just blindly say, take it? Just take it. How many of us take it and take it back? We turn it over and we take it back. You take the thing that you love the most and say, it's turned to God. The qualities that these women had were strong women. You know, and it's okay to be a strong woman. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the world doesn't like that very well, but you can be a strong woman. You know, we have managers and leaders that are out there all the time. And I remember when I was working my way up to this ministry, I was in a good old boys club. For years, I was the only female with the clergy association. And, you know, they all expected me to be the emotion of the group. Imagine their surprise. They needed to get a woman, not a transgender person, to do that, because I wasn't that. But they automatically stuck me in the role of being the nurturer. That is not the greatest gift that I have. You know, but it is sometimes we get a sign that we cannot be strong. Women cannot be strong. And yet, how many of us look to those women of wisdom, of strength?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know for some of us that mother relationship has been tedious and maybe challenging and hard. But usually for gay men and mothers, there's just something that they have. You know, not always has that been an easy path for those of us that look to our earthly bond. But we look to the gender, the feminine gender of God that understands that that place that and that creature that was born, brought forth, can exist in different places, especially in our community.
Yes.
Especially in our community.
Strong women. But let's realize too, saints, that, a strong woman doesn't mean that it's a bossy or a nagging woman.
Yeah, we were talking about that today.
I tell Pastor, I said, I was reading the news this past week, and a new study came out and said that individuals who live with nagging, bossy partners live shorter lives.
There's the energy with
The
that.
new study just came out. They live shorter lives.
Whoa.
Think about it.
Now, of course, in this study, it was talking about men and women relationships. That men who live with women who are bossy and naggy all the time, their lives are shorter. I thought, that's true with any of us, whether our partner is male, female, transsexual, whatever. I mean, that's because none of us like to live with naggers or bossy people, do we? Unless, of course, we're the nagger or the bosser.
That's true, there still was a place for Martha.
But strong mothers who, are mothers who are filled with trust, determination, obedience, persistence, praying. I mean, all these qualities we see in these wonderful examples in this beautiful book that's been given to us by God. Examples that we can follow, not just the ladies, but also us men as well.
In June.
Huh?
In June.
In June.
Father's Day.
Oh, in June. Father's Day, yes. It is coming up. Oh.
Yes.
But
So know that if you have not found that strength that lies within you, seek it. Women are the caregivers of relationship. It's kind of hard to do with my new thing, but they are the caregivers of the relationships. When we're out of balance, relationships start to become out of balance. Because the world and the way we were raised as second-class citizens did not promote us to be strength and find our center. But it is in that center that there is great strength. In other kinds of worship, there are certain times you can't do stuff, even Native American, because the strength that you have in that sense would knock the sweat lodge off. So you need to know that inner strength. And I've heard people say, as I neared my mid-40s and started to hit my 50s, things started to change. You started to cast off some of the things. And it will be the health of this church for us to find that center. Even if the nurturance comes from people that have greater gifts of that, we are the center to hold that and to find that strength. And that it's okay to be strong and successful and creative and loving and all those other things mixed together. And you can love power tools all you want.
That's right.
I just want to say God bless each and every one of you ladies this morning. I love you, but even more so, God loves you. God has great things for each and every one of you. I believe that with all of my heart. Bless each and every one of you. Hey, God bless you guys as well.
Bless you.